This is NDTV. And you're watching NDTV Prime.
Over the years, India has produced some of the world's finest athletes. From fine cricketers like Tendulkar, Dhoni and Kohli to Olympic medal winners like PV Sindhu and Leander Paes. And of course has hosted world-class events like IPL, Cricket World Cup and Commonwealth Games. But the understanding of sports beyond just playing at highest levels should also exist, as there is an entire industry, sports management industry, which exists around all these leagues and athletes. Hello and welcome to this special episode of Heads Up. Today on the show, we're taking a look at sports management as a field of study. I'm joined by Dr. Adam Cogg, Senior Lecturer and Course Director in Sports Management Program at Deakin University, Australia, and Professor Stuart Warmington, Program Director, Exercise and Sports Science. Thanks for joining us, professors.
Thank you.
And I want to quickly start talking about the sports management program which Deakin offers. But before I get into that, to what extent, for our viewers, would you say the sports management programs as offered by Deakin, how much of it is sports and how much of it is management? We can start with you, Professor Cogg.
Certainly. So in terms of the structure of the course at undergraduate level, about a third of the course is the pure business unit, so the accounting, finance, economics, sort of the building blocks of a business course. A third of the course is about sport, so sport-specific units, the marketing, legal, social aspects and organisational aspects, as well as facility and event management. And the course also provides some flexibility for students to also add an additional major. So that might be in another business area or from somewhere else across the university. As we move into postgraduate units or postgraduate courses, it's more likely to be closer to a 50-50 mix between the business units and the sport units. So for us, having a core understanding of the core business aspects is incredibly important for the sport industry.
Largely like a typical MBA, like a typical graduation or post-graduation in a business program.
Correct. So all of the courses or all of the background that you'd normally have in core business training, either at undergraduate or postgraduate level, but also touching on all of the aspects which are unique about sport. So aspects of marketing and governance and organisation, which are all very unique to sport, are a core part of our degrees as well.
Australia, of course, has a very evolved sports culture. We're probably to get there. I mean, in terms of course, your rivalry is, pretty famous around the world, across the world, especially in cricket. But in terms of, the sporting culture and in terms of the ancillary industries, which have come up around sports and these big, league events, be it for cricket, be it for other sports, if you were to do a comparison between Australia and India, where would you say we are?
Yeah, certainly, and certainly there's equal passion on both sides. So obviously Australia, very much a strong sporting culture, and it doesn't take long to observe that in India as well, not only in cricket, but in other sports as well. In terms of where the Indian system sits, it's quite interesting because Australia over time has built a really strong record in on-field performance, but also in the management of sport and events and facilities. Now that's something that's happened over a couple of decades in building those skills and having education programs. So we'd probably say there's aspects of the Indian system which are much like the Australian system were a few decades ago, where things like professionalisation and commercialisation, are really growing. Are really growing.
Yes.
So certainly there's a lot of growth in the industry. It's a great time to get involved in the sport industry in India. We're seeing lots more investment, lots more professional leagues and teams come about.
Right. And to what extent do you believe that the kind of league, league events which have started not just for cricket, of course you have IPL, but then you have a Pro Kabaddi League, then you have a hockey league now, then you have a badminton. So there are all kinds of things which are happening in India. Do you think that is perhaps a catalyst which will because in terms of the number of people which are required to make all these events possible, the opportunities are huge.
Absolutely. It creates an economy in itself in terms of having lots of job opportunities. Sponsors and broadcasters are really starting to realise the benefits that they can get from investing in sport as a sponsor or by investing in broadcast rights. So really, as that moves together, a catalyst is a great way to put it in terms of seeing all these aspects of the industry come together. Money and commercialisation comes to these teams and leagues. They're able to employ professionals, and the organisation of these events gets better and better because of that.
Take any sport, for example. I mean, fitness has become extremely crucial. I mean, that is in fact the edge that an athlete is always looking for. So to what extent would you say a course like this prepares, be it at the bachelor's level or at the postgraduate level, prepares a student to sort of, address these kind of real life scenarios when they're interacting with an athlete?
Yeah, so our course is fundamentally focused on exercise, and if we understand exercise, then we can apply it to sport. So if we can understand the fundamental biology of how we can improve fitness, then we can understand how we might apply that to a sport scenario, whether that be an endurance athlete, whether that be a resistance athlete, whether that be...
Is it very science-centric?
It is science-centric. There's elements of science. It's biology, there's maths, there's physiology,
Right.
and there's some physics.
Okay.
But we teach these in a progressive approach. Well, for entry into our courses, we have very limited prerequisites. It's better to have some grounding in biology. It would be better to have some grounding in maths.
Right.
Those would probably be the two main ones.
Professor Kag, management is the other side. There is a standard regular program for a student at the undergraduate level, and then if he wants to specialize in a particular field, what will those fields be at the postgraduate level?
So at the postgraduate level, they still undertake a core offering of the business units and the sport units as well. Then there's a couple of elective units as well. So areas like sport broadcasting is attractive for students.
Right.
And likewise aspects of athlete management or perhaps business analytics or leadership. So there's a whole host of different streams that students can choose additional units from to specialise, as you said.
So what kind of job opportunities, both in Australia and India?
A lot of our graduates will move into roles within all sorts of different sports, either from a marketing focus, an operational or events focus, perhaps for facility management focus, or developing and implementing programs in a whole host of areas. So national and state sporting organisations are one area, the events sector is one area, so managing events, and many of our graduates will not only train in Australia but also go overseas and deliver events like the Commonwealth Games and Olympic Games, so a host of major events that exist.
Right.
Obviously the facility management sector, the government sector as well, all present a whole host of opportunities.
Right, wonderful. And this point in time, I would like to take our viewers to Deacon's campus in Australia, because Natasha is there and is joined by a bunch of sports management students. So over to Natasha.
Us here are from India, and everyone but me obviously studying sports management, a reasonably new concept to many of us in India, here in Australia. You were telling me earlier that in recent years you've seen the number of Indian students, and not Asian or subcontinental, but Indian students in the classroom outnumber those from other countries. Why do you think that's happening?
Well, in recent years, the sports business has been picking up a lot in India since IPL and so many other leagues, professional leagues, and there's a growing interest towards sports management and the business of sports. So people who are interested in sports feel that there's a career opportunity to be made there, and so they're looking to get good quality education, and like Deakin offers one of the better programs around the world.
Right. Now, what I thought interesting about your story is also the fact that you've gone to NIT. So you studied at NIT, you studied at an IIM, and yet you felt the need to sort of supplement all that learning by some more. Why is that?
Well, for me, the course is much more than academic learning. It offers a lot of exposure to the industry. Sports industry is a very specific domain, so you need to get the exposure, especially in one of the most developed sports industries in the world that Australia has, with so many different sports. So it offers that insight into the industry.
Sure.
So
where do you see yourself a couple of years from now?
For me, specifically, I have a marketing background, so I'm looking for a specific career in sponsorship. So that's something that I'm able to specialize on. Yeah.
So Naina, great to see you. You're even I have to say some things don't change outside India or not. You're the only woman here, but that may be for a whole host of other reasons. First, how many women are there in the class studying sports management?
We've got a fairly balanced number of boys and girls and men and women. Also, I don't think gender. Also, once you come out,
Of India,
people
the
are
subcontinent
people are
is
much
just
more open
different.
to you. Like in terms of even getting into the industry, gender doesn't take priority, which I love about it because it's a whole like different experience altogether. And yeah,
You
so I think-
jumped fields too. You were doing something else, very different. In
Well, I
India.
was working with PVR as working in the corporate communications department. Now, well, communications is a skill that is a strength for me, and I wanted to deviate into the sport industry
You
also.
were quite clear about that.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what
for
you
sure.
wanted to
Because
do.
I've also, I've had the background of playing sport all my life, and whether
That's-
it was nationals in tennis or even football for my university and things
Right.
like that, which I continue to do so. But the whole idea is that we're also trying to get into and get an understanding of the
Right.
business side of it,
Right.
because that's where the whole change
Sure.
is required.
Sure. Arvind, as someone who's sort of course, the winner of the NDTV Deacon Scholarship, but tell me, is it an asset if you play a sport in sort of understanding
Not
the
really,
course, or
because
is it a prerequisite?
no. Look, from
But
India,
all of
if
you,
see-
most of you do, not
Yeah.
all, but most do.
most of us
Is that a
do.
coincidence?
No, probably is, because we are more like everyone now consumes sport. Like back in like 3-4 years or 5 years ago, social media or anything, we were not able to consume sport as much as what we're able to do today. The market has just changed drastically. Now sports management is becoming so big that you have the market for it is just not with athletes, not around
Right.
the clubs and all. It's even about engaging the fans. It's about fan merchandise. It's about everything else today.
Business of sport
So,
is also
yeah,
as big a deal as the sport itself.
So now broadcasters are like seriously going into like trying to get the sport to every part of the country and
Right.
to engage the fans. So that is something. So you don't really have to play sport.
Right.
So I know people who are just doing their job, but then every day know more about sport than actually people who are working in the sport industry. So
I
that's
see. How did you choose to be here? How did you choose to be studying what you are? And why?
So I come from economics background, right? I did my bachelor's in economics, then I worked with KPMG for a couple of years. So I had
All the more now, the dots are not adding up.
yeah. So it was a pretty big switch, but for me it was just following something that I was really passionate about, because I had been thinking about this for a long time. Just the more I worked in economics, more I realized that's not my
And what
field.
was the family reaction like?
Initially they were shocked because my mom thought
What's
I
wrong
was
with him?
kidding or something like that.
Yeah.
But eventually they did get around to it, because I once I told them that this is what I'm passionate about and this is what I want to get into. So they were like, yeah, go ahead if that's what makes you happy.
Despite all their misgivings, parents usually
Yeah.
do come around
Come around, yeah.
once you can convince them. But making the shift, moving all the way, what did that involve? What are the kind of things that you had to sort of work on on the family front here for yourself?
You mean like the shift from India to Australia?
Yeah, like,
Well,
was there a lot of, like long dinner table conversations around how you'd manage. And
Well,
do's
you
and don'ts?
definitely have a very panic-stricken mother, but apart from that, you've got a whole lot of things that the family thinks of, right from finances to you going away. But it's just that, when you know that you have to make it work, we all just come together as a family to try and make it work for me as well as for them.
We're wrapping up, but the one thing you miss about being back home, besides the food, guys, I know the food is number one. I know that everyone's going to say food. So besides the food, we'll start with you.
One thing which I miss is the people who supported me.
Okay.
Because it was a long journey. It was a very tough journey to come here and have to convince a lot of people and myself itself.
Yeah.
So
That is
the
really
people who have
tough.
supported me, so I've missed them, yeah.
For me, I've been moving around for a while now, so it's nothing specifically I miss.
The luxuries of being extremely comfortable and like just getting out wherever you want in your car. And it's a little different here.
I think it's the same, friends, family, food, and probably driving, because I don't have a car here and it's just using public transport to get everywhere. Yeah.
One of my friends really put it really nicely. She was coming from India to Melbourne again. She went back for during the break, and she put a hashtag from royalty to slavery, which I think really like puts it.
Right. Well, thanks very much, guys, and good luck with the slavery, as it were. If you keep slogging hard, you will achieve all that success. Pleasure talking to you guys. Thanks so much for your time, and all the very best.